Excuse me. It is 6 o'clock. It's Tuesday, June the 13th of 2013. This is the Board of Public Works for the City of Franklin. Calling that meeting to order. The roll call is myself, Chairman Webster, Commissioner Porter,
here.
Commissioner Specht,
Here.
Commissioner Witt,
Here.
City Engineer Morrow,
Here.
Assistant City Engineer Beinlich,
Here.
Highway Superintendent Schlater.
Here.
Also, Alderman Eichmann is in attendance. Commissioners Woznicki and Skaronski are not here, as also Alderman Hassan is also not present. We'll look quickly at the minutes from. Thank you. I'll get there. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we'll go on to the reading and approval of the minutes from the May 9 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
As presented.
Yes, as presented.
That'd be Commissioner Porter, seconded by Commissioner Specht. Any other comments from anybody on the board? Okay, all of those in favor of that motion, aye.
Aye.
Any negatives? That motion will pass. Public comment period. I do open up, if you are here for any particular item that's on the agenda, I will let you speak. So this is more for if you want to address the board about an item that is not on the agenda or something, we can't act upon it, but you can at least bring that up. Okay, it's 6:03, not hearing anybody. We'll declare the public comment period over. And we'll move right on to item 5A. I would normally go out of order for people, but since there's only two items on the agenda, and I think this first one, I think you all are probably here for 5B. 5A won't take us that long, I don't anticipate. So we have an ordinance to amend the municipal code, section 245.3B, for stop signs required to add two stop signs for West Lake Point Drive at South Golden Lake Way, making the intersection a four-way stop. This was on our agenda from last meeting that we recommended to council. I assume that council has sent it back and said yes, and now we're trying to get the ordinance squared away. Is that correct?
No.
No.
So because of the way it appeared on your agenda, it talked about stop signs for South Golden Lake Way and not stop signs for West Lake Point Drive. So
We asked that question.
So the city attorney said it needs to come back here and be approved with that heading, and then I could take it to common council for approval.
Okay, so we did ask that question last month.
You did.
I remember that.
That was the answer.
So we've already discussed this, so do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to whatever I said last one.
Recommend to common council that they
Recommend to common council
that they
to
adopt-
approve the stop signs
Yeah.
on West Lake Point Drive at Golden Lake Way.
I make that motion.
Okay,
And I'll second it.
I will correct that and get that redone correctly. All of those in favor of that motion, aye.
Aye.
Any negatives? Not hearing any negatives, that motion will pass. For those of you in the audience, we discussed this for the last 2 months, but it was written on last month's agenda the wrong way. And so although we approved it, we did ask the engineering department to check with the council to make sure that that could go forward that way. We had to bring it, but it was recommended to bring it back. So That's why it was a simple, pretty well-known thing. So we will move on to item 5B, which is traffic issues around Robinwood and Southwood Glen Elementary Schools. There's comments on, and so I think there's two separate issues here, and there's basically...
Separate but related.
Yeah, I'm sorry?
Separate but related.
Yeah, separate but related issues. So let's take the let me ask this question. Is anybody here from the Southwood Glen area? Then we'll take the Robinwood spot
I
first.
think yeah, okay.
What I'd like to do is take this as a 5B, A, and B, if you will, and we'll look at them independently.
So, yeah, again, they're related. If I could describe them together, then we can act accordingly. So you see an email in your packet from Alderwoman Eichmann asking that this be placed on the agenda. She received an email from Angela Christie, which... No?
I am her neighbor, though.
Okay, I see. And so the question is in front of Robinwood Elementary School. You can, if you're familiar with Robinwood, just to orient you, Lovers Lane, Church Street, south of Church Street. There's, I lost it. Here we go, Robinwood Lane. And if you look right here, this may sound familiar because we just talked about this a few years ago about extending the parking, the no parking zone. The concern was having children run out in between cars, basically where they were hidden, seemed to be a dangerous situation. So the board chose to recommend to Common Council to extend the no parking. And you see information in your packet how we extended the no parking. So the no parking is being enforced. There's no parking going on there. But the concern now is that there is a crosswalk still here. And the concern is that when cars come through here or turn here, that it's dangerous to cross because there's no stop sign to protect the children. So as funny as it may sound to the public, and I'm going to caution, I appreciate that it sounds funny, sometimes stop signs can make things more dangerous. So I had a little bit of a concern here in the fact that if, because there's a presumption that cars will stop for a stop sign, and as you've said on this board long enough, all of you understand that that's not always the case. We always can get complaints about cars not stopping at stop signs. There's been several large, I don't want to call them famous, but well-known incidents where somebody didn't stop at a stop sign and hit a pedestrian. So it kind of gives a false sense of security. People quit looking both ways when they cross the street, that kind of thing. So that was a concern. So I met with Andy, spacing your last name. Andy Daniels with the school corporation or school district, and also met with the superintendent for this school, Robinwood, and at the same meeting, the superintendent for Southwood. So we discussed both projects together and some of the issues we're having at both schools in this kind of situation. So after talking with how they operate and the options of what happens, parents are encouraged to actually use Allwood Drive to pick up the children. So this is somewhat of a walk and a hike, but this is how they are encouraged to pick up children at school. Buses, this is the entrance, this is the exit over here. So on the west side, the entrance, buses use the outside lane, and that's where the buses drop off and pick up. And then sometimes parents who don't want to use Allwood actually come in this way, and they come through the parking lot this way, or sometimes they park out in the street and pick up children such that they're basically asking their kids to go out, across the street. And I suppose some of them would probably live down this way or something. That's why they walk that way. So after discussion with Andy and the two principals, I would propose that what makes sense here is that we ask the school to reverse the entrance and exit, allow buses still to come in this way because they have to because of the right-hand side of the door. But if you have parents come in this way instead of exiting, you're eliminating a significant portion of them crossing this crosswalk. So if a car would come in this way, drive around this way, and as I understand, there's usually is staff in this area to, keep cars from running over kids, if you will. The parents would come through, but then when they leave, they would go out Mission Hills, or I'm sorry, Mission Drive, and you would have a whole lot less cars, if you will, passing by this crosswalk, which would make things significantly safer, is my opinion. So this was a discussion, also related issue over at Southwood Glen, and so we've talked about this one too. So over on 35th Street, let me get my bearings here.
To your right.
There we go, right here. So if you recall, Southwood Glen has parents encouraged, I should say even required, to come around this way, but that many parents don't want to get in the queue here for whatever reason, and so they were parking along this way. If you recall, we had a large discussion on extending parking here. The Southwood Glen principal would like us to extend the no parking zone. She feels that would be safer. It sounds a faintly reminiscent of what we just did at Robinwood. However, this is somewhat different in the fact, so here I especially don't want to put a stop sign because this, in my opinion, would definitely be a nuisance stop sign. So it's needed a little bit of time in the morning, a little bit of time in the afternoon. But other than that, it really would be a nuisance stop sign for traffic coming through the situation. And as you know, when it becomes a nuisance stop sign, that's when people really quit using the stop sign, if you will. So we had a discussion on one. They would really like to extend that. I think probably I would like to maybe try that out as a temporary situation this fall. Try it for a month and see how it goes. And then if that works well, then we would actually look at extending the no parking zone. But the other thing that we talked about, which as we're talking, I think it's a good idea, and they're a little more pricey than what I imagined they would be. But if those little signs that say about a crosswalk, yield to pedestrians and crosswalk kind of thing, we don't like putting those in the middle of the street because it's something we have to plow around. But there are some options here where it could be a portable thing. So we talked to the school district, and although they may or may not have the staff available for the crossing guard, if you will, this is something that they could go out and drop in the middle of the street for the 20, 30 minutes needed in the morning, go pick it up, and then the rest of the day, everything goes well, and in the afternoon they come out and drop it again. That, again, would be something basically to say there's a crosswalk here, you need to yield to people in the crosswalk, or we could even do a sign. So talking with the school, I would strongly suggest that they purchase some of those, and you might find cheaper places to buy this kind of thing, but I think I would be fully supportive of that. So again, no stop sign would be my recommendation, but here we would extend the parking somewhat like it is over at Robinwood, because you don't want kids darting in and out amongst the cars. But then just having something that the school would be responsible to put out there and take back as appropriate, I think that would be that's my recommendation. So having said that, obviously there's some folks here who would like to provide their opinion on the matter. And I guess just the other thing, if you say, let's go back over to Robinwood. So the other thing, by reversing traffic, basically you're taking as I illustrated in the memo, this is a concern about, cars crossing in a crosswalk, but it would greatly reduce the cars crossing a crosswalk here is the idea behind that reversal. So I think that's all I can say now, and I would suggest that in back of if you haven't seen your packet, the very back shows how that would work. So.
I tell you what, is that mic on?
This mic is hot, yes.
Okay, so if you would like to come up and make a comment, I do have a couple of questions that I would like to ask, but if you want, we'll invite you to come up, and when it's your turn to speak, name and address for the record, and then, kind of fill in your opinions and help us out. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Porter.
Okay. My question is, you had the crosswalk sign over at the other school. Would that also be a viable idea for
Yeah, I
Robin?
would.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
I would use a temporary crosswalk at both schools. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be a good idea because it would give it some teeth. So, okay, thank you.
It is painted as a crosswalk over at Southwood, Glenn. It's just, again, but having a temporary sign that they put out and take up would be great.
But don't you need the signage, don't you actually need the signage there to enforce it?
No, I don't believe so. If it's a sign, there is a sign there that actually shows a crosswalk with it's like a yellow sign with, it shows the
Oh,
pedestrian
okay.
crossing. So all the signage is there that it could be ticketed if a police officer noticed someone going through a crosswalk and not yielding.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Question?
If I understand correctly, these signs, and Mr. Witt, do you want to have a comment?
No.
I'm going to let you go first. Go ahead, Mr. Witt.
Like at Robinwood, you got them coming in, as the picture looks, let's say to the right, exiting to the left on the screen.
Correct.
Can you put temporary cones up to delineate and actually force the cars to go a certain way during the school rush hour?
So I would suggest to you that the school currently does that. They prevent, if you notice the arrows, they have it signed. I believe there's some signs out by the entrance, and notice that it's marked painted arrows. All they have to do is they could put signage, bus entrance only, all others exit or something like that, something equivalent. And over here they would put entrance only, except for buses or something.
The only problem is people can't read signs.
Well, it'd be, so they may not read them the first day, but when they're the only car going that direction, all the rest of the cars going the
Right,
other way.
I'm just saying it from experience, I see it.
Hopefully they would learn pretty quick, yeah.
That's my question. Thank you.
Sure.
So I can say I drive 51st Street going north 3 days a week. I don't drive it every day anymore. But 51st and College, there's a school right there in Glendale at 51st and College. And they do have that sign that you are discussing. And it goes out sometimes, but not always, in the morning and in the afternoon. It's 51st and College is an extremely busy intersection at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. And compared to this, where they're dropping, this is relatively, much more higher volume. Let's just say it that way. And there's an elementary school just to your right. I don't know if you're right on the
I
right
don't see a
location.
crosswalk.
It's South Park College, it's College Park.
Yeah.
College Park.
It's about 4 blocks to the, actually to the west.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah,
There's
okay,
also
there's a
an-
crosswalk there.
Yes, but the 51st and College, they actually have those signs because, and there's actually crossing guards at that intersection in the morning is my point. And and normally the crossing guard puts those out.
Every morning.
Every morning, I've seen them out there.
I know.
I can't say that they're out there every morning because I don't drive it every morning.
I go there every morning. They actually got an asphalt parking space for it, man.
Yes, they do. They have an asphalt parking space on the side of the road for them.
I don't want to speak for the school, but I believe that they're all in favor of crossing guards. It's just a finance issue. And
I understand. I'm just making the point that these are used in the area, and
But here it's a
Effective.
temporary thing because if I go out there right now, the sign's not there, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay.
yeah, if you go out there right now, the sign is not there. I believe that the crossing guard brings it.
He brings them.
He brings them. So that's my belief, but I don't know that positively. So I just point that out. What you present here as a solution makes sense to me. It does make sense to me to do what you are suggesting, and I'm not going to say, no, that doesn't make sense. But we'll let the board come up with its own comments. Mr. Porter.
Another thought by Robin Wood.
You want to turn your mic on?
Okay. Another thought by Robin was, what if you put a no left turn sign at that one corner that would force cars to come in the other direction? I'm not that familiar with the names of the roads there, but
I'm sorry, how would you propose to do what?
right where your arrow is, right there on Mission and Robinwood. So anybody coming south on Mission, you would tell them they can't make a left-hand turn at that corner, so it would force them to come in from Chapel Hill and come in down
So
Robinwood Lane.
So I would suggest to the traveling public, you're basically asking to route everyone through the
Yeah,
school.
that-
Because if you're not a parent, you're out there for other reasons, you're driving south, you have to turn left. Otherwise, you are going into the school parking lot.
Okay. Well, I was just saying as far as trying to change habits and
Yeah.
force the people to come in from the east and head west down Robinwood Lane instead of coming south on Mission Drive and making a left-hand turn. You know, as far as trying to change habits, that was the thought.
Yeah.
So if I was going to make, and go ahead and come on up if you wish. Your point is, you're recommending these signs, these portable signs for yield to pedestrians to be put out morning and afternoon. Is that correct?
Correct. I think that would have
I think that would also, and I think it would be the type of sign that would not be ignored because it's not there all the time. So, and when people put them out, they put them out right in the middle of the road. So, you know, you just see them. So I think that would be a reasonable concept. So, and we've always looked for ways to do things differently. That's not a bad one. Go ahead, name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Tiana Dubinsky. I actually live 10525 Candlestick Lane. So, yep, there I am. And I walk my kids just down that way every day, and then, yep, that way, and then across the crosswalk. Every single morning, get them every single day after school. So I see it literally every day. I have one in 5th grade next year, 3rd grade, and 4K. So we've been there for a while. Just a couple concerns. I don't know where the no parking zones are, so I'm not sure how well those are. But if you don't mind me showing,
Sure.
one of the concerns going on is that cars, literally, is this yellow no parking zone? Is that what that's supposed to be?
So we have no parking 50 feet this direction
Okay,
and 50 feet this direction.
okay.
And then no parking on this side. It goes all the way, I believe, past this location right here.
Okay, it's not followed.
Hold on. That's your proposal, isn't it?
No,
There is no proposal.
this was approved back in 2020.
2020.
So if you,
What shows that? How do people know that?
there is signs. So if you go out there and look, I can go to Google Earth actually.
My question, Glenn, and I think this is what she might be getting at, is it signed on each end or is it signed in the middle too? So people that come in from the Mission Drive and then turn to your left and park right there, do they even see the sign? Because it's back to them?
The morning I was out there, it was the last day of school, and it looked like, to be quite honest, I only looked at the signs on the north side. Those are signed correctly on the north side of the street.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the south side. I'd be able to even think to look there, but the signs are visible. Yeah.
When you're walking out of Robinwood and crossing the crosswalk on Mission Drive, cars park both morning and afternoon right here along the parking lot, which I'm sure is part of the no parking zone, but people don't follow it. And one of the biggest issues is as kids are coming out into the crosswalk, they cannot see around the parked cars. Yep, so the parked cars are literally parking where your arrow is, and a lot of them. And then the kids, as they step out to cross, they can't see around the cars, and a lot of them don't know how to kind of step out, look, and then.
So it looks like, so from 50 feet, this is probably painted yellow about where the sign is. So
And
we talked about,
is there a sign, or it's just painted yellow on the curb? Because yeah, I can't remember either now that I'm.
Kevin, do you recall if there's a sign here? Oh,
Well, especially in the winter too, what's painted yellow is not seen because there's snow covering everything, and there's just no. I mean, it's not deterring cars,
I
even
would
though I know it
assume-
should be. And
I think it's a good assumption that the sign is probably there.
Okay.
It may not be, but I think it's a good assumption that it is. The department is pretty good at getting the signs up and having them placed there. I think.
so. See, we have the signs on this side.
The last time the Google Earth was updated was 2011.
Okay, so that was,
So this
so,
is.
but that is where cars are parking, literally right where your arrow is. Yep, all along there.
so this is, as you saw in our other, this is actually painted yellow.
Okay.
This is what was approved, so we proposed.
Yeah, which I think is a great idea. It might just need. I don't know how. The best
So-
way to enforce that is, but it's not. People are not following
So-
it.
I would not be opposed to extending this parking between the,
Yeah, extending the no parking.
From drive to drive?
Yeah.
To the right as you're coming out of the school, because the crosswalk, the way we approved it, it's 50 feet either side of the center of the road, Mission Drive, I believe.
yeah.
And so that just puts you past the crosswalk. So maybe that's another alternative, is to extend that no parking down that side of Robinwood, another 150 feet
So we,
towards the driveway to the right.
Well, and not everybody's even. I mean, it's such a gray area because they pull. It's not like they park and get out of their car even always. Some do, but they turn their flashers on. They're letting their kids out, but it's it doesn't matter. It's still blocking
Well,
the crosswalk, and kids
If you,
can't see.
that depends on how you sign, how you approve and sign. If you sign it no parking, then there's also that sign that I've seen, no
No stopping or
parking,
standing.
stopping or standing, I think it is. That gives the police an opportunity to ticket those people who just stop and let their kids out the car.
Right.
If it's no parking and they're still in the car, I think they have issues. They have difficulty with that ticket.
Yeah.
But so that's something that can be looked at.
so I, like I said, I would have no problem if we went no parking here to here, I guess, as long as the school doesn't mind, eliminate, it just backs up people more on Mission Drive. It might be difficult to do stopping, standing, because I don't know that I have any other places in the code like that. So I'd have to look. So
But yeah, I think extending would help, and I really like the idea of even putting something temporary there just to draw people's eye. Whether if a stop sign doesn't seem like something you would recommend, then I'm good with that. But I know myself, and I know he'll talk next. But we are there every morning, and I can't even tell you how many times I have literally almost been hit by a car with my children right next to me. I mean, it's insane. I can't even let my kids walk by themselves, and my oldest is definitely old enough too, but I am so nervous about it, and I've almost seen some kids get hit, and I feel like I'm responsible for saving all these kids' lives every day because their parents aren't there. So it's becoming stressful.
Okay. I'm not sure, I know you're with the school, but I don't know if you're with the district, with the school itself.
I'm the director of building and grounds and safety coordinator. I would love an opportunity to talk a little bit
Please,
as well
please.
once you guys are done.
Yeah, okay, we'll bring you up. I'd like to have a little conversation and.
Hi there.
okay.
Hello, my name is Rick Katschke. I live at 10670 West Robinwood Lane, so right there. So I do have that firsthand view. As mentioned, it's the cars. The biggest problem is the cars coming down Robinwood Lane, going into that entrance by where St. Martin's Park is. Right now, the school does have a crossing guard during that first section, and I mean, that parking lot is insane as it is. But Robinwood Lane is the primary issue here. Cars are going, I'm being conservative when I say 35, 40. They are speeding down. As mentioned, in recent weeks, twice I was almost hit while in the crosswalk. Once while pushing my newborn in a stroller. So I think overall there's just a fundamental misunderstanding or lack of knowledge about how crosswalks work. I understand not wanting to put a stop sign there because really it is limited hours that this is an issue. In the mornings, it's primarily mornings. Afternoon is also an issue, but the biggest issue is the mornings because everybody's racing to get their kids. And even when it's not, the bell is about to ring, they have to get to work or whatever, and they're racing down. I do like the proposal of having that entrance be on the far right now, where what is now the exit. Going to what you said, would it be possible to have, so the one concern I have about that idea is I don't see realistically people exiting with Mission. I think they'll exit and they'll just go right back down Robinwood Lane. So it's still an issue with the traffic at the crosswalk. So if there isn't a stop sign there, what was mentioned about cones, if you have that temporary sign, would it also be possible to have cones basically blocking off that crosswalk for that limited period of time in the morning and the afternoon to prevent cars from going down that way?
So if I could comment on that. So the idea that people are racing to get in, we talked about that with the principals. So the thought is that people racing to get their kid there would not cross the crosswalk. They would go in the out entrance right now. But as they leave, suppose they're still in a hurry as they're leaving, the fact is because they're having to turn the corner right there, they really can't pick up enough speed to really they're still going fairly slow because they have to come to a dead stop to make the turn. And I can't imagine they're doing a Starsky and Hutch out of there, kind of thing. But that was an idea that because they're starting from a stop, they really won't be able to pick up the speed and get up to 40 miles an hour as they would if they're coming this way. So that was an idea to keep them slower. As far as the cones in the crosswalk, I'm not opposed to that, but keep in mind that not everyone that would travel these roads in the morning or afternoon is there to pick up a kid situation. So again, you still have to leave it open for the general traffic to make a turn and go past there.
I understand that. I just, in the mornings, nobody's really, I know it's feasible, but for the most part, nobody is ever turning on Robinwood Lane if they're not going to the school in the morning.
Yeah, 99% won't, but you can't block it.
No, and I understand thinking that it wouldn't come up. Oh, sorry. Oh,
no.
It wouldn't
go
pick
ahead.
up speed, but it's still, okay, now you're making a right turn, and now there's kids crossing the parking lot. So there really is so much inattention in the morning. I mean, to me, this is like a multi-pronged effort. Not having the parking, a stop sign, a temporary thing, something to address it. Whether it's a paid staff member who's a crossing guard. I live right there, so, I have a second grader, so it's not always feasible for me to be out there all the time, but I do try to be out as much as possible to help with the flow. But just something to prevent cars from, even being by that crosswalk, how it is, it's just, that my biggest thing was a stop sign because I understand that it's a nuisance, but if you don't understand how crosswalks work, you can easily drive through a crosswalk. People know that they should stop at a stop sign, and I know that there's people that might roll through it or whatever, but everybody that is driving a car knows what a stop sign is.
I'm sorry. I'm going to kind of slap you on that one a little bit. So you put a stop sign on Robinwood at Mission. People stop signs are used they're used to control an intersection, not to slow down traffic. So what is someone going to do? If they're coming down Robinwood and they see a stop sign, if they stop, and that is a big if, they might slow down to 15 miles an hour, but they aren't going to, half the people aren't going to stop. They're going to pick up speed fast and go. And it's, I would say also, Glenn, if you're turning right, you've got 100 feet coming out of there to the intersection. Yeah, I probably agree with you. I don't think they're going to get going that fast unless, like you say, you got the striped tomato from Starsky going down that road. But so I would be. I'm very careful about. We're very careful about putting stop signs up, and we have warrants for doing that, and we definitely tell the constituents, the citizens of the city, stop signs are used to control an intersection, not speed. And so there is a series of warrants that this board has approved just for that purpose. And there are special conditions around schools that we do consider, but I think this one would create more trouble than it's going to help. I would.
Sure.
I'm going to go here to Ms. Specht, and then we'll come back. Becky?
In all honesty, I forgot where I was going to go with my comment earlier, so I will get back to you if I remember where we're at.
So,
Okay.
And before Andy comes up, I guess I think I finished my memo. Basically, I'd like to almost evaluate maybe the no parkings, especially, and see how things go the first month of school actions. So, we can post it temporary no parking for the first month of school. See how that works here. See how it works over at Southwood Glen.
The police department can do that, can't they?
we can do that.
We can do
So,
that?
Yeah.
Okay. And I know you had a question, one more?
I was just going to ask, about
This is the lady who was up here earlier, just for the record. I don't remember your name. I apologize.
Yeah, sorry, thank you, Tiana Dubinsky. I'm just asking about the turn. I understand it will slow them down because they have to stop, but I guess I don't understand why that matters. If you hit a kid at 10 miles per hour at 30, you're going to kill him. I don't understand why the speed matters. My worry is when people turn, they're on their phones, they're texting, they're calling. It doesn't really matter that they're coming out this way. If they go on Robinwood Lane, that's just my concern. That, to his point, if we don't have phones or something, I mean, it's ridiculous. People should know how to follow a crosswalk, and I 100% agree, but they don't. And so that's what we're just worried about. People don't seem to know the rules of a crosswalk. What can we put up? And the temporary things, I think are a great idea. And that's where we were along the stop sign line. Just there has to be something a little bit in people's faces, there's kids here.
Yeah.
Stop.
So, okay. Ms. Specht, you now remember.
I remember. My first question my first question is, how are the school buses being routed into the neighborhood? Are they being directed down Mission, or are they coming in from the next street down?
This would be a question for the school district, but I would assume they go both directions, just depending on where they need to go.
Are you talking about how they exit or how they enter?
Exit.
When they exit, they take out.
Enter. I was asking
okay.
about how they
Oh,
enter
enter.
into the
So-
neighborhood.
They come from both.
Yeah.
They come from both?
Mission and down Robinwood Lane, and then they go to the far right drive, and then, or the far left, sorry. And then
So they come down Mission and Robinwood.
Yeah.
And then they typically exit taking a left on Robinwood and then a right on Mission.
Okay. So if the parents are directed to not be dropping off their kids in this parking lot, and they're supposed to be dropping them off on the other side of the school, correct?
Correct.
It depends on the age. So kindergarten and first grade, I believe, drop off in front of the school. Second through fifth go to Allwood. So it isn't not everything.
But it's not limited to second and fifth graders that are being dropped off, or excuse me, kindergarten and first that are being dropped off in front. Right now, it's
The rule is any family that has a kindergarten or first grader, so if you have an older kid, but as long as you have a kindergarten or first grader, you can drop off in the front.
And is there
Quite a bit
some kind of
traffic, no matter what
sign?
you're saying.
Is there some kind of sign or something that parents are supposed to have in their car to show that they're?
Any pickup has signs, drop off, anybody can drop off. Yeah, there's no way, they're not checking it, which I realize would,
yeah.
teachers cannot do that, and I would never ask that of them.
Yeah, and the gentleman, Mr. Bauer, who does the traffic in the parking lot, he does an amazing job because it is very hectic. But as hectic as it is in the parking lot, Robinwood Lane in particular is the mess. There's been times too where it's cars turning to park because it's not right in front of my house. Nobody ever really parks here, but it's cars parking all along between that yellow line and the exit that's really bogging down, and parking in the crosswalk too on that side.
Yeah, cars literally park in the crosswalk.
In the crosswalk.
Okay. Glenn, I think, okay, I would like you to come forward. I would like to chat with you for just a minute. And is it Miss Eichmann?
Yes.
If you would like to also speak, that'd be fine.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for
Oh, yeah.
talking about this issue. This just is something that it's been so dangerous, so I really appreciate everyone's time and consideration for this.
So here's where I'm at with this right now. This is something that I think we can work on over on the next month. So I will be asking for a motion to table this as we look at some of the options here. But as long as we're still in discussion, one of the things I'm looking at, Glenn, is I would like to see the following. I would like to see your evaluations of the no parking extending there to the right, and even to add no parking. Is to the right on your map there? Is that east or west?
So to the right is east. So
it's to the east. That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure.
So it's helpful that this gentleman just up here is this corner, because normally we're concerned about extending no parking because that affects you as the homeowner. Because
right.
now
That's why we are careful about that. But
when
on
you have
this side,
parties-
on the school side,
So
on the school side,
I
would
would-
also like you to evaluate not just across the whole front of the school between the driveways, but also to the east, maybe would be the south
So-
side of the street.
so currently, I'm looking at the
There's
exhibit here. So there's
a no parking on the north side for a
About-
short while.
about right here is where the no parking is signed.
Mm-hmm.
So from here to the west, there's
Right.
no parking, and I think that's appropriate.
And then I believe on Mission Drive, on both sides of the intersection, up past the first driveway.
So in this house, it goes up to approximately here, and 100 about on the west side of the road, it's up to about right here. So this is no parking. This is no parking. This is no parking to about here. And I would suggest to you, it's not much of an evaluation. I think it's probably appropriate just to say no parking from across the entire front of the school. I would be okay with that.
Okay. Is there a time when you go east of the driveway to the school on the south side of the road?
From the school?
Yes. Is there a time in the summer and so forth when people park there and they do stuff with their kids and so forth like that? That's what I'm asking.
Not as much in the summer. People just park in the parking lot more.
Okay,
Because
so
there's open loadings.
I think it would also behoove us to look at that option.
I could go to the edge of the school property. That
Just take a look at it. The secondary question that I have, and this is really, I'm thinking outside the box on this one, but I think, sometimes that works. We have a crosswalk that crosses Robinwood at Mission Drive right there. Is there anything that we can do that we have a stop sign on Mission Drive at Robinwood? Is there any way that we can direct the walking traffic across Mission Drive at the stop sign, going
So-
to the west and crossing over to the left of the entrance to the driveway right now?
so if you notice, the sidewalk is on
I
the
understand
east
that.
side of Mission, right?
I understand that, but I'm thinking outside the box.
I guess I don't understand the question. So you would
So,
put
right now we have a crosswalk going north-south across Robinwood right there.
correct.
What I'm asking is, we have around the parking lot, all the way around it on the outside, looks like there's a walk right there. So yes, what she's showing right there. Can
Okay.
you take it there? Is there a way that we can do that? We can use the stop sign at Mission Drive, and then you get all the way past the first driveway and cross on the other side of that. I'm
So-
just looking for alternatives
So
that
I would
may
I would
help
suggest
us.
to you 1 out of every 80 people may do that.
You may be right.
mo-
I'm
mo-
just
mostly
asking
people,
the question.
Mostly, well, I'm my
I think
my.
it's right there, somebody's property.
It is-
That sidewalk leads, literally, you go straight down, that's the front.
I understand that. I can see that. I'm not blind.
But I know, I don't mean to be insulting.
No, but-
That's not my intention. But also, if the intent is to now have people turning left onto Mission Drive, well, now you're having if you wanted to force people across, that's just another area. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what I'm suggesting is, we already have a stop sign there, so I'm suggesting a way to get the walking traffic out of the flow of the other traffic in another method. That's
So-
all.
So, Mr. Chairman, so there is wisdom if you notice that there is a sidewalk around here.
That's what I was noticing.
We do not have a sidewalk here, so we would have
Correct.
to add a sidewalk. And then,
Yes, you'd have to do
yeah,
the curb.
yeah, yeah.
I'm just saying that
The-
I'm thinking outside the box
I-
as a possible alternative.
I appreciate that. I guess I would suggest to you that, I mean, I can almost see this happening, that people tend to be lazy and they take the most direct route.
Okay.
So unless you put a fence or something that they have to walk
I'm
around.
not denying that you're correct.
yeah.
I'm just looking for alternatives that might be more safe. And of course,
We
if
would-
Robinwood continues
We would
to the
have-
west in the future, then that's all worth nothing. So
No, and it would not. We'd have to ask the school maybe to put a fence across the entire front that would block the ability to go there. So
I'm
Okay.
just bringing up an alternative to consider. Could you come up and your name and address or position, whatever, how that works for you, sir?
Yep.
And just kind of fill us in. I should be on, isn't it?
yeah, no, it's on.
Okay, so Andy Daniels, Director of Buildings and Grounds and Safety Coordinator for Franklin Public Schools. Also community member 8933 South Red Wing Drive. Sound familiar, Kevin? He built the house. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I appreciate the opportunity meeting with Glenn and our two principals from both sites. I appreciate the parents being here. I really do. Safety is our number one concern. It was just 5 years ago that we saw some kids get hit on Putes in Oak Creek as they were doing that. A little bit different situation. I've only been with the district for a short period of time, but I've been in other districts, and no matter what districts I've been in, it's the same thing. Our traffic flows, the parent pickup. I've spent a lot of time investigating and watching traffic flows, and it's the same thing no matter what district you're in. They're speeding through the parking lots, they're on their phones, not paying attention. But that's not going to change us. We're not going to give up, right? Something that sold me at Robinwood when talking with Glenn is really trying to slow that traffic down coming up Robinwood, because they are picking up so much speed when they're coming down, what's the street to the far west, Chapel Hill? Yeah, Chapel Hill. They're gaining a lot of speed. So I think it's worth trying to redirect that traffic flow just for the parent drop-off and pickup, keeping the buses going the right way. We can change our arrows. We can change some signage, right? It's going to be a learning curve for the parents. They're probably going to feel like they're driving in Europe for the first week or two because it's a completely different traffic flow. We can try putting some cones to try to direct them once they come out of that loop up to Mission. But just to be clear, too, like that is, as our Tiana, sorry. As Tiana said, it's like kindergarten, K4. It's the real little ones that are getting dropped off along with, we're not just having drop off there. We're also having like our community, our students, our walkers, right? They're coming that way as well. I think that's going to be a good step in the right direction. I think it's a really good idea investigating that no parking zone. And again, this is kind of trial and error because we know that there's a cause and effect to everything. Every time we do something, what's going to happen? I can tell you, tonight, I haven't heard us talk yet about the situations on Church Street. So I'm also working with Assistant Fire Chief Antwine. I don't know that ever came to the council, but we're seeing parents that the drop-off line to Allwood and into that up Robinwood, it's backing up on Church Street where people are doing U-turns on Church Street and cutting people off and also hitting or coming close to hitting kids there as well. So we are working as a district to create videos to try to change some of that traffic flow, kind of say these are the things you don't do, these are the things that you do. We might be trying to look at bringing the traffic flow up Church Street, down Candlestick, so more of a snake, so that we're not like backing up on Church Street, because we know that that's a main road that people are using to commute back and forth or to work during the day. Okay. But I think we just need to continue to work at this. I don't want that crazy event to happen on my watch or anybody's watch, obviously. But I think between changing that traffic flow with the parents, the kindergartners and the first graders, adding that, the thing that I left out was I personally will be there to help enforce the new situation that we create, the new traffic flow that we create. We're building a really good relationship, not that we didn't have one already, but there's a lot of new administrators for the Franklin Public Schools. So we're starting to get to know really everybody from the city, from Franklin Fire, from Franklin Police, and we're building good relationships, I think, between our SRO and even having some more law enforcement support to help teach the new traffic flows around the district and enforce what we are expecting of the parents, that should help improve it as well. We have traffic videos, so I don't know, do you guys, summer school kids at all? You're going to be so summer school parents, we're running all of our summer school out of one building, Forest Park this year, besides the high school. So we know that there are parents from elementary schools that have never been to Forest Park yet, so they don't know what those traffic patterns are going to be like. So one of our communication director puts on like a really awesome video with like dots and things, like here's where the buses go, here's where the middle school parents go, here's where the elementary school parents go. So we're planning on not just for Robinwood and Southwood Glen, but we're planning for all of our elementary schools to do these types of videos to encourage them to follow these traffic flows, get off their phones, follow the speed limits, don't park here.
Let me ask this. I'll get back to you. Thanks. Can you remember?
You want to write it down?
I'll tell you what. Go first. Respect.
Your microphone.
I really appreciate hearing that you're looking at this as more of a larger scale issue. Because one of the points I was trying to get to earlier is the number of cross points your buses and your parents have within this small area. Mm-hmm. And by looking at the whole neighborhood like you're proposing to improve the traffic flow for the parents and the buses from coming all the way from church to the school and then out, and trying to reinforce that, I definitely foresee you having a much stronger solution in the long run. Because just looking at this smaller map in front of the school, I'm seeing cross points between parents wanting to leave and buses trying to get in. And then you're going to have backups of trying to get those parents through the parking lot as your buses are trying to cross in front of them as they're trying to get out. So your production rate will go down.
It's going to slow it down, yeah.
Because of those cross points. But if you can encourage your buses to only come in down Mission, go through and then out through Chapel Hill, and then your parents may be coming in down Chapel Hill and going out on Mission, one, they'll break up your amount of traffic going down Robinwood. Hopefully that's just the local people who get caught in the mess and not your complete flow of the rest of the traffic you have coming through there.
Yeah. Yep. So that would be pretty much our intention if I followed you correctly on that one. And not to mention, not to forget for me to mention the signs that we were talking about, like Glenn had mentioned, like he sent us some information on some signs. I know you mentioned like they might be a little pricey, but it's like, honestly, I don't have a problem with trying to fund something that's going to save some lives, possibly in the long run. But we are trying to take a holistic approach. Janine Bamian, the new principal, there's a lot of new people, like I said, so it's kind of good. We're all putting fresh eyes that haven't really been on these schools in a while, so it's good, again, more fresh eyes, kind of giving us some feedback.
So let me ask this, a couple of questions from myself then. Mm-hmm. Is this one of your primary roles then as a director of, call it traffic flow through these schools? Is that a primary
role of mine?
Role of yours?
I don't
or
know
is this
what's primary anymore.
You understand my question. And the reason I'm asking is we've had a lot of interaction in the past. parking at the high school for 20 years. I've been on this board since 1991. And trust me, I've done nothing but look, for the first 15 years of being here, parking in front of the high school was a mess. I think it's kind of squared away. I think we've got it kind of squared away now. But my point is that I've seen interaction before Glenn with you, and then before Glenn with either Jack or Ron and whoever their counterparts were. I would also highly suggest that if you're getting this video put together of people doing U-turns on was it
Church.
Church Street there, sharing that with the chief of police, great idea.
Yeah, and that's in the works.
Because let's be blunt. People, if you allow people to be stupid, they'll be dumb. They're good at that. People are really good at being dumb. You give them the chance. So, I think one of the things that we kind of push, we're kind of conservative as to how fast we put up signs. We want to, like you said, we do something, we see how it reacts, we'll come back. That's fine. But one of the first things we also like to do is, if it's possible, to get police involvement, because this is an area I think that Ms. Speck's comments about traffic flow into and off of Church Street back into the school area, really smart. We went through a very similar situation at Pleasant View years ago, before we had the second entrance going into that location. We only had one for years, so it's gotten better. But I'm just saying, I would certainly back your intent to share that information, and not only with parents, and it's almost like one of these things you have to do every year, because you got new parents coming in every year, and the old parents forget.
Well,
They gotta go.
And I know our principals are pretty good about trying to follow up in newsletters, but we all get information overload as well.
And information
so you don't always
overload,
read everything
you
either.
know. So I think that's good. What I'm going to suggest, unless there's any other comments from the board, there is. And you would like to have a word too? Why don't you come on up, and then I'll let Ms. Speck speak first, and then Alderwoman, you can have your opportunity. Okay?
Has any consideration been put into place about doing keeping the traffic pattern as it currently is, with the buses and the parents coming in on the west end of the parking lot, but enforcing a no left-hand turn at the east exit, and forcing everyone to go towards Chapel Hill when they come out of the parking lot?
That's how they go anyways when they're done currently.
And
It's the coming in that's the.
And I believe it was Glenn's intention that that's where they're gaining all their speed. They basically got a big runway coming up off of Chapel Hill. So trying to direct them, slow them down before they get to that crosswalk by bringing them into the parking lot. That's where I started building some belief in trying to change that traffic.
And in fact, we probably made that worse when we have no parking. So now that, when there are cars there, that actually slows other cars down. So when you take away the cars parked on the side, that makes cars go faster.
If there's any way that we can enforce all incoming parents to come down Mission and then out Chapel Hill, that way you would have less cross points between your buses, pedestrians, and parent traffic. And then on top of it, you'd most likely reduce the amount of traffic in general in that area of concern of the crosswalk.
So if I could add something, not every parent comes in the parking lot. As what I understood talking to the principals, a lot of parents do a drop-off pickup actually on Mission. So they actually ask their kids to come out. That's why they're in the crosswalk, because they're walking to get in mom and dad's car parked on the street. So a lot of parents pick up out here because they don't want to get in the queue and actually go through the parking lot. Is that fair?
I think they have. I think that's the rule for pickup now. They can't park in parking lots. Walkers line up along Mission, the cars, and then kids cross and get in the cars.
So.
Okay, Alderwoman, I had your name and now it's off my mind.
Alderwoman.
Eichmann.
Yeah, Alderwoman Michelle Eichmann of District 287,
Welcome.
33 West Rawson here in Franklin, of course. And Mr. Webster, you've been on the board since 1991, you said?
Yes.
Good year. It's the year I graduated from Franklin High School, ironically.
Oh, now you make me old.
Oh, no, that feels old. So I appreciate everybody's time to this matter, and I also appreciate your suggestion of tabling this to gather more information. I guess I have a lot of questions. Mayor Nelson was not able to be here this evening. We've talked numerous times in regards to this matter. He does support my thoughts, and I do have his backing on this as well. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not just these two constituents who are present. You know, bad time of year, many of my constituents over in that area, parents of Robinwood students are on vacation and so forth. It's many constituents. For over a year, I have had constituents, taxpayers, requesting a simple stop sign be put in that area. I am well aware that a stop sign can give a false sense of security. I was in the village of Greendale in 2010 when the horrific accident of a well-known family happened in front of Village Hall. It was horrific. There's a stop sign there. The lady chose not to stop. We've all seen on the news, unfortunately, in the past couple of days, of the 22-year-old young man, ironically from Greendale as well, who was hit on his motorcycle and killed because a lady chose to not stop at a stop sign. Stop signs do give a false sense of security. However, I personally feel, and we can gather more information, it's a simple stop sign. It would at least help a little bit. Are cars going to run it? Of course. But then the Franklin Police Department then has the opportunity to issue citations. I cannot speak on behalf of the Franklin Police Department. I'm in constant contact with Community Officer Wallace, and I will be speaking with him on this matter. It's also, I feel, as a city, we need our squad cars in other areas throughout the city. We're hiring police officers. We're hiring firefighters, just like every other community. We can't expect the police department to, per se, babysit these parents who are not following the rules every single morning. I mean, we just don't have, do we have enough squads to do that? Do we have the status to prove that? I don't know. Those are answers that we'll need to find. But at the end of the day, when my constituents are requesting a stop sign there, you know, the school, I'd like to work in conjunction with the school board. I've spoke with Mike Sprague in regards to this as well. Parents are going to have to, again, the principal is going to need to set out letters and so forth, encouraging parents to stop. Do we know that the cars that are flying through this area are actual parents of Robinwood students? Odds are many of them aren't, and they're just residents that are in a rush and hurry to get somewhere. They don't care to slow down. You know, that's pretty much all I have to say. Is it's basically, at the end of the day, it's a stop sign. So I don't understand, you know, this has been going on for over a year. You know, I've had the discussion many times with former Mayor Olson and so forth, too. It's something that my constituents want. I don't think it's a big ask.
If you take a look at some of the areas in the city of Franklin, if you go down to the southwest corner towards Southwest Glen, that's southeast, I guess, southeast corner towards Southwood Glen, southeast Southwood Glen, down there. Excuse me. You'll go through some of those neighborhoods and you will see literally stop signs at every corner. You will. The reason that those stop signs are in every corner, at one point in the city of Franklin history, and actually when I first came on the board, this was kind of the way it worked back in that day, is each alderman had their option of putting up like one or two stop signs wherever they wanted. And they got put in places where they're not necessarily wanted, not necessarily needed, might be a better term. And then we come back, and so this is why if and I don't know if Glenn has ever showed you these, but in our packet tonight, there is a copy of our warrants that were generated in 1999 that this board generated. I don't know if I believe it went in front of the council at that time to look at, but we've stuck with that set of warrants for a stop sign. And one of the things that we do look at in there is exceptions for looking at school districts. And so I can tell you, for instance, the stop sign on Drexel Avenue at, what's the road that goes between the middle school and Ben Franklin? I can't think of the name of it. Just to the, yeah, what's that drive going
This?
in? Yep. That-
Meadows?
Is it Meadows that goes?
Forest
Yeah,
Meadows.
Forest Meadows. Yeah, that stop sign was put in response because when Ben Franklin went in, we felt that we needed to control that intersection better for pedestrian traffic that might be flowing in between. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. It wasn't a month later, we had an individual who is on a number of committees in this city. She came up in front of this board and asked us to remove it. It was actually and that's where we started, how do you remove a stop sign once you've put it up? So for everybody that think there's a good reason to put up a stop sign, there's another person who think that's dumb. So that's why we went after the warrants, and we put up the warrants in the way that we did. And so I think that we've tried to bring consistency with that process. And so if you look at the particular intersection that we're talking about over at Glen, at Robin Wood, the only thing that you have that might consider warranting a stop sign on Robin Wood would be the school aspect of it. But I don't know if Glenn has looked at that to even suggest it. But Glenn is going to go back. The table motion that I'm going to be asking for is to table until a July meeting. And we're going to ask Glenn to review the no parking stuff. And like you said, we put the no parking signs on. One of the things that does is now you've widened out the road. So now we got more open space for cars to drive. Well,
It's
but,
not.
Cars are
but
still parking there anyway.
I've driven through there
my
several
point is
mornings.
when you do those types of things, you have things that cars will drive faster. Like you said, you've got a long run there on
I'm just
Robin
saying the
Hood.
parked cars aren't slowing them down.
So-
That's what I'm just saying.
Okay, well, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. So this is my point. And so I'm going to ask, and I would like to, I think that there's between the school, the alderman, Glenn, to organize and kind of, let's get our thoughts together and make sure we come up with a good solution and let's be honest, this might not be the final solution. Glenn, go ahead.
So instead of tabling till July, may I suggest that let's table till October? What I'd like to do is I'd like to do the temporary no parking completely in front of the school. I'd like to allow the school to implement their measures that we talked about, and that'll give me at least a few mornings I can sit out there and watch how things are working before we make a decision on what to do permanently. So, and I just one thing about the people that are passing through here quickly, they are going to school, because if they were not going to school, they would be turning, so basically coming to a stop, almost a stop, before they turn. So it's the people coming through the intersection, I think, is the issues, and those would indeed be all school-related people.
Mm-hmm. So,
I appreciate that greatly. As far as, this goes back to 1999. It's to 2023. This is something that maybe we can, that can be
sometime
revisited.
we can maybe revisit it.
Yeah.
But one thing that we've always attempted to make this board a more technical oriented board. And if you look through the warrants and the things that we list, it is more technically oriented. We came up with a set of arguments to approve or disapprove a stop sign, and so we'd have consistency. But like I said, one of the things on that list is the effect of a school on there. I don't remember where it is in there, but I know it's in there. So let's just I'm going to ask. I am going to ask for a motion to table this until the October meeting, have Glenn and the school work with their temporary stuff, and bring it back and let us review it at that time. I'm going to go over here to Ms. Speck and then Mr. Porter.
Mr. Chairman, I do believe that we can't just, based on what your recommendation is, it sounds like we need two separate motions, one to table half of the topic and then one to take a vote on implementing the no parking.
No, I can,
You can do that without
No,
us?
he can do
I
that.
can put no parking tomorrow, temporary situation.
Okay,
Right,
lovely.
she can do the temporary one. And we haven't even discussed the Southwood Glen. So although maybe the Southwood Glen has the same scenarios in front of us, except we
Same
don't have.
scenario, we'll, if you could table that till October, I'll put no parking out there and I can evaluate how that proceeds.
Okay, my request for a motion would be to table the whole topic until then to allow those things to take place. Porter, did you have your hand up also?
Well, I was going to make that motion. I was going to help you out by making that motion.
Okay, let's hold off for just a second. Because if we put the motion up and then we get to that point, then we got to kind of stop the discussion. I was going to allow the Alderwoman to make her last comment.
Thank you. Just one more brief thing. I appreciate the time given to this and the attention given. Also, I'd like to work with the school district as well as far as the crossing guard situation. Ironically, my son, who's on the Village of Greendale DPW and Water Department, I raised him in Greendale. He attended College Park. Greendale has, at that time anyway, it's been quite a while, paid crossing guards through the village school district because so many kids in the Village of Greendale walk. But that is something that I have brought up with Mike Sprague and so forth as far as having, if the teachers can rotate, if there's concerned parents, where they can take monthly turns and stand out there as well, I feel would be a good solution. That's something that I'll also be bringing up with the school board and we can revisit. So I appreciate all of your time. Thank you very much.
Okay. Did you want to respond to that, or?
Yeah, I don't know if I need to come up for that. That's the one point I have written down here I didn't even talk about.
Okay.
So we are actually meeting this week with HR, and then we have an auxiliary services coordinator. She's new to us as well, oversees transportation as well. So we're meeting this week to talk about crossing guards. And she's
Okay.
got some great ideas to look for volunteers.
So all of this conversation will go back into your review for then. I'm going to,
I just ask a quick question.
okay, one quick question, and then
I
we're
was
going
just
to close
wondering
this
if part
down.
of the tabling till October will be those temporary signs, or would you not try that
So,
after?
so the things the city can do, I can post no parking. The temporary signs, that would be up to the school to implement.
And then I was just going to say too that if you're newer too, that they did used to have students as crossing guards. The sixth graders in all the elementary schools, which I realize aren't there anymore, were the crossing guards. They did. When my daughter was in kindergarten, they had orange vests on and they were the crossing guards. So I don't.
That was a crossing.
Were you? So I know they moved to the middle school, but I was just saying they weren't paid. They just. And when I was in middle school too, we were trained to be crossing guards. We didn't get paid, but we just did it for the younger students. So I was just saying. I just didn't think.
So we actually had a discussion last year regarding the crossing guard in front of the high school. I don't know that you could pay me enough to get out there the way the crossing guards were treated. And at least the parents out of the high school, it's absolutely atrocious. I don't know if I'd trust a kid being out there.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, although elementary schools it might be a
Okay,
little tamer.
Mr. Porter.
I'll just make a quick comment. I was a student in Greendale, and Greendale really promoted walking. They really pushed the heck out of it. But that community was also built that way. And that was part of their master plan back in the 30s, but that's just my side comment. Are you ready for that motion?
You have the floor.
All right, then I'll make the motion that we table this item, 5B, and revisit it in October with further study from engineering.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? All of those in favor of the motion, aye?
Aye.
Any negatives? Not hearing any negatives, that motion will pass. I really appreciate everybody who has come in and spoke this evening, and let's see how this all works out. We'll see what goes on in the future. Glenn, we have item 6, which is future agenda items. I do have a question for you. Speaking of future agenda items, one of the things that might be useful, I'm thinking about Alderman Hassan, and I'm not even 100% sure about some of our other newer members, I think they might all be aware, but we haven't had a review of the way that we handle our salt for the year. And I know that, you know, we purchase our salt a year ahead, and I know that I don't know if it was built. But we had talked about there was talk of a new salt place down at the yard. I don't know where, and I just think that it might be a nice time for an
Okay.
update on our handling of salt, et cetera.
I'm not sure I can make that happen next month, but in the next few months.
No,
so.
it's winter hope, knock on wood, won't happen next month.
And likewise, the 2024 paving program, I'm not sure if it'll be ready next month, but definitely month after, if not.
Certainly the month after, okay? Then, with that being said, our next meeting is July the 11th of 2023 at 6 p.m. That's the second Tuesday. Just for everybody who's here, we do meet every second Tuesday of the month, unless we're normally in this room unless something comes up. And is something coming up?
Well, I would suggest to you that if the salt practices and paving program are the only thing on for next month, we may take the month off.
Yeah, well, sometimes we do miss a month if we don't have a lot of items. So second Tuesday of every month, but just for informational purposes. Then we are ready for a motion to adjourn at 7:16.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there Commissioner Porter, seconded by Commissioner Specht? All of those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any negatives? We are adjourned.